Before we start, please don't forget to like and subscribe. It was just past 6 when I walked into our house in Elmhurst. Tired, phone dead. Another investor call gone nowhere. I dropped my laptop bag by the door, expecting the hum of the TV or the clink of a wine glass in the kitchen. Instead, I found Madison standing in the living room, folding clothes with military precision into a suitcase. She didn't look up. Going somewhere? I asked, my voice flat but loud enough to fill the silence. She zipped the suitcase closed without flinching. I want a divorce, Brandon. I blinked. What? She finally met my eyes. Not angry, not tearful, just blank. Like she had already moved on and forgotten to tell me. Why? I asked, trying to process the blow. You pick now, when everything's falling apart? Madison said. She crossed her arms. Exactly. I need something that isn't falling apart. My heart thudded in my ribs. So your solution is to pack a bag and leave your husband when he's drowning? I'm not your lifeguard, Brandon. You gambled everything on a tech dream and lost. You're not the man I married anymore. You mean the man who paid off your student loans? Who supported your art studio for 3 years? I snapped. Her jaw tightened. This isn't about the past. It is all about the past, I said. You knew this startup would take everything, I reminded her. You were with me when I took that risk. She looked away and brushed a strand of hair behind her ear. I was with a man who had potential. Now, you're just clinging to a dead idea. The words hit like a punch. Have you met someone? I asked. The air thickened. Madison froze for half a second. Not long enough for certainty, but too long for comfort. No, she said finally. Unbelievable, I muttered, pacing. You wait until I'm one legal notice away from bankruptcy, until my bank account is gasping for air, and then you walk. She didn't reply. She wheeled her suitcase toward the door. I won't beg, I said. If this is who you are, then go. She paused with her hand on the knob. I knew you wouldn't. Then she was gone. No tears, no hugs, no parting words, just silence, and the soft click of the door shutting behind her. I stood in the middle of the room, surrounded by everything we'd built. Everything she'd just walked away from like it was an expired lease. That night, the quiet felt like it had teeth. I didn't sit down. I didn't scream. I didn't crumble because something else was already taking root in me. This wasn't just the end of a marriage. It felt like the start of something else. I didn't turn on the lights. I dropped into the worn leather armchair by the fireplace, the one she always said was too masculine for the living room. The room was half lit by the street lamp outside and the pale glow of the microwave clock. I sat there for a long time, jacket on, staring at nothing. Then I stood, walked to the kitchen, opened the cabinet above the fridge, and reached for the bottle of blended whiskey I'd been saving for a win that never came. The cork made a soft pop. The sound felt too loud in a house suddenly too big for one person. I didn't use a glass. I took the bottle back to the armchair and took a slow sip. It burned, not enough. Another sip, and another. Somewhere around the fourth pour, the thoughts started to take shape. Those jagged pieces of memory, shame, and frustration that had been swirling around my head began to line up. The startup that had felt like a rocket waiting to launch now felt like a dying animal. I kept trying to resuscitate it with desperate investor calls and sleepless nights. I opened my phone and stared at the emails I didn't want to read. Declining your proposal. Our fund is pivoting. Final notice. Outstanding balance. Not tonight. I leaned back and said aloud, maybe she's right. The words tasted like rust. A floorboard creaked in the hallway. Just the house settling. But it felt like an answer. I didn't want to be drunk. I just didn't want to feel sharp. My thumb hovered over Madison's number. I didn't call. I opened the camera roll instead and scrolled past a birthday dinner, weekend at Lake Geneva, a blurry selfie in the hospital hallway when my dad passed. I stopped on one where she had her head on my shoulder and I had tears in my eyes. I stared at it for a long time, then locked the phone and tossed it onto the coffee table. The ticking of the clock above the mantel filled the room again. Tick, 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 I whispered. I'm not begging, Madison. That's the line she crossed. She hadn't just left because she had to. She left because she wanted to. No explanation, no fight, just clean hands in a suitcase. It wasn't even heartbreak that gripped me. It was insult. The slow kind that burrows under your skin and burns. I'd given her everything. Time, Sundays, late-night calls, every I'll be home late text. Now I sat in a house we'd bought together, sipping whiskey she used to hide from guests, trying not to feel like the world had voted me off the island, but I wasn't going to drown. No matter how deep the storm, the betrayal, or the silence, I wasn't going under Tuesday morning. It was still raining when I stepped into the office. Soft, persistent rain that made the city feel like it was under a gray tarp. The lobby was quiet. No receptionist, no deliveries, just the low hum of fluorescent lights. I took the elevator to the 5th floor. When the doors opened, I heard my own footsteps echo. The office was half empty. Desks pushed aside. Some monitors disconnected. The intern table gone. The whiteboard we used for roadmaps sat blank, a smudge of forgotten ideas. Derek was hunched over a mug at the far end of the room, sleeves rolled up and the same gray hoodie he wore when things were tight. He didn't look up when I walked in. I dropped my bag and walked over. "Madison left," I said simply. Derek looked up slowly, squinting like he hadn't slept. "What? She's gone?" "Packed a suitcase. Said she wants a divorce." That was Sunday night. For a second, he just sat there. Then he rubbed the back of his neck. "Man, I'm sorry. That's rough. I thought you two were solid." "Yeah, me too," I muttered. A long silence settled between us. Then Derek folded his hands and looked me dead in the eye. "I've been meaning to talk to you," he said. "I think I'm going to pull out of the company." My stomach tightened. "You're what?" "I want to cash out my stake," he said. "With everything slowing, the funding drying up, I think it's time. I've got an offer. Product director at a fintech. More stable. It's a lifeboat." I stared at him. "That's what it is," I said. Derek didn't deny it. "We built this thing together, but it's not working." The market shifted. We missed our window. "I can't sink with the ship just because I helped build it." "You always said we were partners," I said quietly. "Thick and thin. That's what you told me the day we signed the lease." "I meant it," he said. "But this isn't personal. It's the problem," I said. "It should be." He stood up. "I'll have the paperwork drawn up. You'll get my shares. I just want to go clean." He grabbed his jacket, paused at the door, and said, "Take care of yourself, B." Then he walked out. First Madison, then Derek. I was still standing in a building that felt as hollow as everything else I'd been left with. A few weeks later came the divorce hearing. The courthouse was gray and solemn. I wore the only decent suit I had left, charcoal, a little tighter than it used to be. I'd lost weight, but it didn't matter. Madison was already there, prepared and composed. Her lawyer sat beside her, flipping pages with the confidence of someone who is paid by the hour. When the judge called the case, Madison's lawyer spoke first. "Your Honor, Mrs. Harlow is entitled to half of all marital assets, including equity in Mr. Harlow's business. That company was built during the marriage." I didn't want to fight the divorce. I stood and spoke before my lawyer could. "Your Honor, I'm not contesting the divorce. I'm not here to drag this out. I'm willing to give Madison the house and the car. All I ask is to keep the company what's left of it. It's mine to rebuild or bury." There was a pause. The judge raised an eyebrow. "The valuation shows significant loss," she said. "Yes, ma'am," I replied. "We're down to almost nothing. But it's mine to rebuild." Madison's lawyer looked surprised. Then he accepted the proposal. The judge noted it, and before I left the bench, I turned to Madison. "Thank you," I said, loud enough for the room to hear. "For the years we had, I wish they'd ended differently." She didn't respond. The judge dismissed us. I walked out feeling intact. Not lighter, not stronger, but intact. Sometimes that's enough. 3 days after the hearing, I was living out of my car. My shirts folded in the back seat. My laptop bag doubled as a filing cabinet. I couch-hopped 2 nights at a friend's in Naperville. 1 awkward floor sleep at an Exco worker's. I was running out of places to park my pride. Then a message from Nicole Harlow. Hey, I heard about everything. If you need a place to crash, my couch is open. I'm in Joliet. No pressure, Cole. Madison's younger sister had always been the quiet one at family dinners. Once, she passed me a note under the table. You're the only reason these dinners are tolerable. I had kept that note. I didn't reply right away. It took me nearly an hour to type. Are you sure? Absolutely, she answered, in 5 seconds. Her apartment sat above a florist on a quiet block. It smelled like cinnamon and light. Her couch, draped in a soft blanket, already had a pillow waiting. You look like a man who's either heartbroken or recently mugged, she said when I walked in. Bit of both, I smiled. She taught art at an elementary school and came home smelling like glue and paint. We fell into a rhythm. I worked from her kitchen table. The calls were short, the answers shorter. Nicole floated in and out, pouring coffee, humming. There was no pity in her eyes, only understanding. One night, as she rinsed dishes, I said what had been pressing on my chest. Nicole, I know this isn't your problem, and I know how weird it is taking in your sister's ex. She didn't look up. You're not Madison's ex to me, she said. Then who am I asked. She wiped her hands and leaned against the sink. You're Brandon. The guy who showed up to every family barbecue. The one who helped me move out of my dorm. The one who laughed at my terrible jokes and told me my clay mugs had charm. There was no theater in that answer. Just quiet. Months passed. The company survived. A mid-sized logistics client took a chance on our software. That deal turned into 2, then 6. Confidence crept back in. One morning I opened my laptop and saw it. 6 figures cleared, our first real profit. I stared at the screen for a long time. Nicole called from the kitchen. Is that the face of a man who doesn't have to eat instant noodles anymore? That's the face of a man who might finally buy a table that isn't from Craigslist, I joked. That night, I booked a rooftop dinner. She wore a burgundy sweater dress and the boot she called a splurge. We shared hot cider and flatbread. At some point, I stopped mid-sentence, looked at her and said, I love you. No dramatic pause. No rehearsal. I love you, Nicole, I said. Not because of what you've done, but because of who you are. Her lips parted, then she smiled until her whole face lit up. I've been waiting for you to say that, she whispered. From that moment, things moved quietly forward. I started sleeping in a real bed, not on a couch. My things had drawers again. We were a couple, steady and soft. Then the past flickered back. Madison stormed into the office one late afternoon, windblown, pale eyes rimmed with red. She didn't knock. Brandon, she said, voice breaking. I gestured to the chair across from me like I was welcoming a client. Calm, grounded. She sat, but barely. I messed up, she whispered. Badly. I said nothing. She looked at me, fear raw on her face. It was Derek, she said. We were already involved when things started falling apart. He told me you were slipping away. He promised he could save the company. He said he would bring clients. I believed him. My jaw tightened. I kept my hands in my pockets. He drained it, she said. Quietly. He rerouted leads. He was consulting on the side. When I found out, I was already too far in. I wanted you to hear it from me before it comes out in court. I listened. Then I said, you didn't destroy everything on your own, Madison, but you left me when I needed you most. Tears slid down her cheeks. I loved you, she whispered. I believe you, I replied. You loved yourself more. She stood, shoulders slumped. Nicole's good to you, she said. I can see that. I didn't respond, I said. She turned to leave, hand on the knob. I'm sorry, she said once more. I said nothing. The door closed behind her. 2 days later, I called a lawyer I knew, Harper Knox. She listened and said, meet me Monday. By Friday, she had built a case. Evidence showed Derek had siphoned clients and duplicated invoices through a shell company. Madison's confession filled in the rest. The suit was quiet and brutal. Derek sat across from me in a navy suit that fit too well. I walked to the bench like a man who wasn't shaking inside. "You betrayed more than me," I told him. "You hurt the clients, the interns who never got paid, the people who trusted us." The judge reviewed the files for an hour. Then the gavel fell. Derek's company would pay full damages. He was barred from founding another firm in state for 5 years. His license was suspended. I didn't gloat. I just stood still outside the courthouse. My phone buzzed. "Nicole, saw the news. Proud of you. Dinner's on me." And clients started calling back, like little sparks on dry grass. One quiet Sunday afternoon, Nicole went out for groceries, and I sat on the porch, coffee in hand. A soft knock came at the door. I knew it was Madison before I opened it. She stood there in a long coat, hair tucked into a scarf, eyes stormy. "Please," she said. "I just need 5 minutes. Then I'll go." I stepped aside. She walked in slowly, looking at the living room as if the walls might accuse her. She told me she had been thinking about me since the day at my office, since she told me everything. She said she still loved me and had come to ask for another chance. I listened. I had nothing left to give to that chapter. "I'm sorry," I said gently, "but that part of my life is over." She trembled. "You came here because you can't live with how it ended," I said. "But I can. I made peace." She paused, then left. The door closed behind her. It sounded nothing like an ending. It sounded like peace. Months later, in a small jewelry shop tucked between a diner and a record store, I bought a thin gold band, honest and simple. That night, I came home to the scent of roasted garlic and vinyl. Nicole sat cross-legged on the couch. I knelt down, opened a small black box, and said, "Nicole, Harlow, you took me in when I had nothing. You stood by me while I put myself back together. I want to spend the rest of my life standing beside you." She screamed with joy, tackled me into the couch, and said, "Yes, you idiot. Yes." We married in a small garden. No grand arch, no rehearsed smiles, just our closest people. When I spoke, I didn't read from a card. "You loved me when I didn't even like myself," I said. "You stood still when the world turned its back. I don't care about yesterday. All I want is every tomorrow with you." She kissed me. The garden disappeared. That night, as I stood hand in hand with Nicole, I looked around friends, laughter, peace, and I thought, this is the win. Not the court ruling. Not the money. This, finding something unshakable in the ashes. Before you go, I want to ask you something that sits heavy with me. When Madison finally came clean about Derek, after everything was already destroyed, was her confession the right thing to do, or was it too late to matter? Tell me what you think in the comments. If this story moved you or gave you a new perspective, don't forget to like this video and subscribe. There are more stories like this still waiting to be told.